Welcome everyone, you're watching Girl Talk. I'm your host Anna Karina, and today we have a very exciting show for you. Later on I'll be interviewing Northeastern student and world traveler Dana Bellinger on her recent trip to Cuba and the Dominican Republic. But before that, I'd like to introduce today's panel. They're a wacky cast of characters. First we have finance specialist Sam Duffy.
Very happy to be here. Very happy to be
Are
here.
you?
I am. Very excited.
Ladies, he's taken, okay? No questions about it. No,
Sorry.
No bachelor
Sorry.
here.
I know it's tough.
Next, we have assistant teacher at the May Institute, and as she described herself, fun-loving and spirited, but definitely not a hippie. Rachel Zussman.
Nice to be here. I shower.
Good to hear. Good to hear from you guys.
Very good.
And then next, what would the show be without Lauren Baversky, our life enthusiast?
That's embarrassing. I'm happy to be back in again.
She's quit recruiting everyone, no longer. But she just couldn't resist this week's topics because they're so good.
They really are.
They are.
Thank you guys for being here today, and let's just jump right into it,
Yeah.
shall we? Okay, our first story. Actresses Charlize Theron and Gwyneth Paltrow are under intense scrutiny this week for their controversial comments regarding the so-called adversities of fame. While promoting her new film, A Million Ways to Die in the West, Charlize compared celebrity online media ridicule to getting raped, and Gwyneth shortly followed in a different interview comparing online abuse as going through war, saying, "It's almost like how in war you go through this bloody, dehumanizing thing and then something is defined out of it." Right? Isn't that how it is?
It's two of the most outrageous statements ever made ever. If Gwyneth Paltrow should go get a nice helmet, Kevlar vest, a gun.
Maybe in a movie.
Right. Go over to Afghanistan, and then she should come back and tell us if it's like war.
If it's
I don't
exactly the
think
same
it is.
thing.
I think it's much different. That's just my opinion.
Did they coordinate these? I don't usually. They're heinous comments. Did they coordinate it, or was it just really, really bad timing?
Really, I feel like it's almost the atmosphere in Hollywood now to think that your life is so difficult. I mean, sure, you get a lot of stuff posted about you all the time. Don't read it if you don't want to. You know, it's not like
I don't care. Read it. Just don't compare it to war and rape if it's
Yeah.
not war and rape.
Right.
It's just belittling both of those things completely.
Exactly. I mean, think about how rape victims, and so, I mean, well, Gwyneth Paltrow has been getting a lot of heat from Cindy McCain, the senator's wife, saying that her sons went through war and she's a joke, and then a Green Beret, Brian Sykes, wrote an entire letter to her, basically saying, how could you even say this? I mean, what is it though? Can we completely hate her for it?
Well, how long ago was this?
This was a couple weeks ago.
So it's like, has there been an apology?
She hasn't apologized, I don't think, fully about the war thing, but she made a similar comment about how regular moms have it easier because they have a set routine than actress moms who have to, you know, spend some time on the set and they have to go away for 2 weeks, and you know, she said there are challenges in both, but she thinks she has it harder, and she's made some sort of comment on that, saying that let's stop the mommy wars. Don't get mad at me for saying this. We should be supporting each other instead of you guys hating on me. Basically, on her blog, she said that.
Well, it's like they want us to feel bad for them. Like, I looked this up. Charlize Theron is worth $110 million. And with Gwyneth Paltrow's married to the lead singer of Coldplay.
Right.
Together, they're worth $300 million. So you want me to feel bad for you? Like, is that why you're saying these? Like, I don't feel bad for you. You just sound like an idiot.
She does.
I think what upsets me even more would be that someone worth so much money would have the access to be educated enough to not make a comment like that.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, that comment they probably weren't coming from a malicious place, but such an educated place for someone so privileged is kind of what upsets me.
I completely agree. I don't think they're evil people. I don't think they're terrible people. I think their perspective on life has been so
Skewed.
that they almost can't see, they don't hear the words coming out of their mouths. And if they were saying it to all their actress friends, I'm sure they'd be like, yeah, you know what, like, it's so terrible, I completely agree with you.
But it's completely unrelatable.
And
like,
not
none of us
rape
can
or
relate to
war.
that. Right.
And I mean, the baseline is they're not getting raped and you're not going into war.
Right, like online comments, you can avoid those. You can be discriminate and not go read things about yourself.
Right.
But you can't like be out in war and be like, I really don't want that bullet to hit me, so I'm just gonna not get hit by that bullet. It's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, maybe it'll bring attention to more education regarding rape and war. Silver lining, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
well, okay, so I think since Charlize got a lot of heat for her comment, there was an article that just came out that she came back from a workout at the park. She went into a Pinkberry and she didn't have money to pay the $375, so she said, "I'll be right back." She came back later and gave the girl a $97 tip, $96 tip, whatever. She gave her a $100 bill. Would she have done that though if she wasn't under scrutiny for what she just said? Do you know what I mean? Was this like a planned, like, you know, the girl was worried that it was going to come out of her own paycheck, the $375, but then she just handed her a dollar bill and said, "Keep the change." So do you know what I mean? Are they trying to make up for, are they trying to repair their image through these like little stints?
I feel like the people outside of their world, when we hear that, like they think that we're gonna have a similar reaction to them. And then when we don't, that's when they start backtracking. That when the backlash comes from all of us, that's when they're like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that." And then they leave $97 tips. And,
I know.
Well, Gwyneth Paltrow hasn't really done anything but made herself look more stupid.
Yeah, the comments from her just keep, like, they're getting completely worse. She should just stop altogether. But she's getting so much heat for, like, her divorce, and did she cheat on Chris Martin, and, like...
What? I don't know anything.
They're separated now, or they're in the process.
$300 million net worth comment.
So her worth is going down, so she's really worried. Her life is going to be really hard as a mom on set now that part of the income is going out there. But I feel like these actresses aren't even getting publicity for their movies anymore. Like Charlize's movie, it's tanking. It's not a good movie. No one can talk about her great performance. All they can talk about are her controversial comments. And I feel like a lot of stars, that's what's happening now. We care about, you know, just their weight or their comments or anything. And who's really getting attention for like a great performance, like what we're paying them to do, to act, and we're not even talking about it.
Yeah, well, I feel like this movie that Charlize is in now is basically just like to make money. I'm sure, you know, Seth MacFarlane, people think he's funny. She probably figured, all right, I'll jump on board with this. But like even like back to Gwyneth Paltrow, she's made comments like this in the past. She took credit.
Yeah.
Some woman who was walking to the World Trade Center on 9/11 almost got hit by Gwyneth Paltrow. But like Gwyneth Paltrow was in her car and almost hit her. And Gwyneth Paltrow, and she was late to work because she was so startled. Gwyneth Paltrow has taken credit for saving her life by almost hitting her with a car. So
oh my God.
She's a gem.
Oh my gosh.
She's a gem.
She's also been quoted saying that like every woman has time to work out and like there's no excuse basically. Like, you know, like those general comments, they do get recorded and granted, like you know, I think like maybe every woman does, you know what I mean? But she's a celebrity, it's gonna get recorded, and then every woman doesn't have time to work out. We don't have millions of dollars, or if we do, you know what I mean? But it's not a generalization, and all her comments come out as like generalizations.
Yeah.
She just doesn't understand.
She doesn't understand. It's so easy to do.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
It's true, but I mean, hopefully it's the end of the comment war. Hopefully it's the end of like, my life is so hard. I mean, granted, I don't know what she goes through. She has said she can't pretend to be someone who owns $25,000 a year. Yeah. Quoted saying that. I can't pretend to be someone who makes $30 million a year, but I would hope that if I ever reach that stage, you still keep that perspective in line. So, I don't know, we'll see. But our second story, another hot topic, debate has sparked over the online media release of the Isla Vista massacre murderer Eliot Rogers' hateful videos, which initially flooded YouTube and has since spidered over to other video viewing sites that can be found on Google. I don't know if you guys watched his videos.
6 a.m. this morning.
Yeah.
I almost
nice
cried
wake up.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I almost cried on my way to work.
It was probably one of the weirdest feelings I've ever had, where you're watching someone who's done the things he said he's gonna do. That's the scariest part. He's done them.
And but that video that he recorded, I forget what it was, the title of it, but right before he killed people,
the Day of Retribution
he planned that years in advance. In his manifesto, it like said everything about that. And I guess in his manifesto shows how even crazier he is.
And is it, I mean, the whole question, is it ethical to post this online? We, as citizens of we can watch this. And a lot of people are saying, it might be, you know, it's legal, freedom of speech, but is it ethical? Is this going to spark even more violence? I mean, anyone can watch this and be like, you know what, he did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
Children can watch it.
That's exactly how I feel. I feel like, you know, let people who for some reason would want to like look that up, go find it. Don't release it. And now it's like all over the media. And just like you said, I feel like now someone who is maybe teetering on the edge of doing something like this sees how famous he's getting and sees that his message is getting out there. And now maybe someone who may not have done that in the past is now like, well, now I'll be famous if I do something like this.
Which has been a continuing pattern with all mass shootings. It's really upsetting.
After Sandy Hook, I mean, there was a lot of press on the shooter, and then now him, and so a lot of people saying it's just propagating his fame. And I mean, there's so many videos too. I watched one. There were like 5 or 6 of him he taped himself in his car. And it's just such hateful material that it's almost scary that we have access to it. And but a lot of people are saying, well, he's dead, so post-mortem rights, he has the right to show this. And YouTube eventually took it down, but not before everyone else got a hint of it and then posted it. So people are saying, well, it can't be legal. It has to be taken down. But then you're saying, well, if you take that down, you have to take down everyone else's right to hate him on the internet. You know what I mean? Then it's like, if he doesn't have his right, then we don't have our right to either hate him or another story came out. There was a Facebook page glorifying him. So a lot of people praising him on this Facebook page, and Facebook didn't take it down until they reached like a lot of heat, and then they took it down. So I mean, how far do we draw the line between this terrible person can't post this post-mortem and like how far can someone hate him, Well,
maybe since that is something that probably can never be controlled, I think what we could control is the conversation afterwards.
Right.
Like how do we take this, like how do we react to things? Because that's what's causing more issues or not preventing more issues.
Right.
So how do we take from it? Like how should the media, what is a proper conversation that the media should have after an event like this?
Right.
Because every reaction has been the same and the pattern has remained the same.
And like you said, I don't think children are being, sat down like, okay, while you're watching this, you should think never to be like this, or if you have problems with this, I mean, they're watching it on their own.
Yeah, they're finding it themselves.
And then the manifesto, I'm pretty sure he sent it out to reporters before too. So
yeah, he sent it out to like his counselor, his mom, I think, and like a couple
How
other people.
far before it happened?
I think the day before.
Like the day that he.
The day of.
Yeah, the day of.
Yeah.
Well, like Lauren said, I think it's the reaction. Like, why are we talking about these people? Like, if someone is insane enough to roll past the college campus and roll down the window and start shooting people indiscriminately, he's a psycho. That's all. You just leave it right there. You don't have to go. I don't want to know about his life. Like, he's a piece of trash. I don't care.
God, probably. I've never had such a hateful reaction towards an individual at once for someone who's just so almost has life almost given to him. I did a lot of research on his background. And I know it leaves such a lingering feeling. But also, there's been a lot of comments from the boy he murdered, the 20-year-old in the convenience store that he just went and shot, from the dad saying, when is change going to happen? Like, kind of like, what is this reaction? What are we going to learn from it? Are we just going to have a reaction and then that's it? That's kind of what happened with Sandy Hook. There was a reaction, a little bit of a conversation, and then these things just keep happening.
Yeah, we're not learning from it.
It's mental illness. It just brings up way too many conversations. It's very intimidating, I think, for society to approach, like gun control, mental illness, like just a lot of things. Safety, just general safety in areas. So would like to say I'm looking forward to the conversation maybe being a little louder this time.
Yeah.
But I mean, hate never solves anything, and the typical reaction is hating the individual. So
it was just like something like this happens, but like you look at it, it's like disheartening because you look at Sandy Hook. We're talking about kindergartners, and nothing happens after that.
Nothing.
So like, what are we just gonna accept this now? Like, we're like one of the only major like developed countries in the world where this is like just repeatedly it happens all the time. It seems like it happens like every other week now.
The Colorado shootings.
It's unbelievable.
And on the Sandy Hook aspect, I mean, Chris Martinez, the boy who was killed, his father came out saying, well, I had 20 years with my son. Those people didn't have any time. And like, when is change? How many more people have to die? And is releasing the video, is this helping? Is it hurting?
I mean, we could be talking about it if we didn't see the video. We'd still be talking about him doing these awful things.
Yeah.
I think watching the video is what he wanted.
Yeah,
And
which
I
is
think
almost
that's-
like we're granting him his...
No, I mean, like reading his manifesto, like people have been reading that. Why are you giving him the time of day
Don't
to
read
do
it.
that?
Seriously, you're giving into exactly what he wanted. And if anything, he should be silenced, forgotten, and this will fade away. And all we should remember are the things we take from this, the people that were killed and hurt, and basically better laws, I think. I mean, I think it's safe to say something needs to happen. If I don't know the extremes of, the NRA, what they're going to do, but some change needs to happen.
Something,
hopefully.
It's so important. Something has to happen.
Yeah, so we'll see, God willing. So, number 3, we're going to move into a little bit of a lighter topic. We've had pretty two heated ones, so don't get depressed now. Although, uncovered letters from Jackie Kennedy to a priest in Dublin have recently revealed JFK's wife's anguish over the great president's cheating ways early on in their marriage. She writes after their wedding, shortly after, that he loves the chase and is bored with the conquest. And in my opinion, that's such a great statement to kind of, sum up this feeling and this phenomenon that I feel happens a lot in the dating world, a lot in relationships. Specifically, I want to know what you think. Is this true? I think it's true. Do you find your friends and yourself at any point in time that feeling of you love chasing a girl and right when you have her, it's no game anymore?
I don't know. Maybe I'm different. I think once you find...
I'm the good guy.
I'm the good guy, yeah. I'm the good one.
That's why we have you here.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like if you find someone that you really love, like how can you just get bored and want to keep chasing them? I think that these guys, though, these famous guys, like I think that they spent so much of their years like before being married, like JFK or Tiger Woods, they're good looking, they're powerful, they're rich, they're famous.
Rich.
And, girls are attracted to that, so they can basically get whoever they want. And then they get married, and they have jobs where they're away from their families a lot of the time, and they just fall back into their old habits. I don't know about like normal guys, but I think that's what these famous guys do.
That's true. Well, the scary thing for me is I completely agree with your the limelight. They have access to all these resources and women, and if they want to, they can definitely go for it. But I feel like normal men also, even when they don't have all those resources, they still have that feeling of chase.
Is this it?
Is what?
Once they get it, is this it?
Is this it?
But to be honest, I feel like that's not just men.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
I think that that's everybody. Like heterosexual, homosexual relationships, all the time you distract yourself so much by the idea of a person that you kind of lose sight of once you get to a certain point. It's like, oh wait, they're a human being that I actually have to share things with, like including my emotions and commitments and all
and
that.
Boring
and
things like going shopping.
And it's like,
oh, going shopping.
But you do it.
I do it.
But good point, Sam, because you said too, like when you found someone you love, those things are, you do them out of love. And you almost kind of like doing them. Like I love doing boring stuff, running errands with like my significant other, but you're right. I think women.
I just do it anyways.
But you're right. I think women also agree with that. I just from the opposite side. I just find it. I've tried to get so many men who they do the persistent texting and the dating and everything, and once they know that you like them, even the little teensiest bit, it's like you're no longer the prize anymore. I don't know. Is there hope for people who are in the dating world? But.
There is no hope. We're all done now.
We're all done now. But what you were saying, these great men, I mean, JFK, great president. People loved him. Unfortunately, assassinated, and we still have this fond memory of him. Yeah. And to hear from these words from his own wife, and there was a lot more. A lot of saying that she was, she was kind of in despair over their marriage, and she's a great woman too. And so and this might not only be men, but how do men separate? Being a great man in history, and yet, in my personal opinion, if you're a cheater, I have trouble seeing you as a completely great person. Yeah,
because there's not. I mean, morality could be pretty holistic. You know what I'm saying? And I guess cheating on someone you love is considered immoral. So it's kind of that kind of conflict.
Right.
But there's also a person that can do the job politically, and like political versus personal, or morality as an entirety, I guess you could say. And I mean, it's interesting because I think more people in history that have been politically powerful have been men thus far, at least in the United States. So these men in this place of power, have been in the position more often to kind of deviate from their relationships.
Right.
But it's also, it's kind of hard. Like, do you really think you can get away with something like that? Everything comes to light.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the limelight
Especially
as a
you're the
politician.
president. I mean, JFK, we have Bill Clinton. I mean, that one was
Who's
huge.
also still seen as a great president.
Exactly. Yeah. Still, we love him. We love him as a president. We call him our first real black president. He was such a great dancer. Yeah, that's it. They say Obama wasn't the first black president, and then Bill Clinton was more black than Obama.
When Clinton went on Arsenio Hall, did the saxophone thing.
Yeah,
But
he's cool.
We keep saying great president. We're not saying great person.
Yeah, and to know, and his wife stayed with him, and Hillary stayed, and Monica Lewinsky just wrote an article about her affair with the why now exactly
because she wants to be famous still.
Exactly. She wants to be famous, and then Hillary came out with another article, basically like kind of dismissed, like, it was how do you feel about the Monica Lewinsky article, and she like talked a little bit about it, and then kind of like pushed up like I might run in 2016, so remember me and remember how good I am and everything, But But that's great, you know, that's great input for that kind of, that cheating aspect. I don't know.
Well, especially with politicians, because I think that you cannot be a successful politician in this country and be single.
Yeah.
You can't, because people
you're right.
need that family image
Yeah.
to relate you to.
Really true.
Yeah.
And some of these guys like JFK or Bill Clinton, who should just never be married,
Yeah.
they get married out of necessity for their
Necessity,
career.
Image, Scandal. We learned.
I was just going to bring
started
that
watching
up.
Scandal. They needed a guy to be married for him, a congressman or senator, something like that, because that's how the American people wanted to vote for a family man.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it at that, guys. But thank you so much. That was great.
It's awesome.
Great.
Thank
We're putting a lot of
you.
brain power this episode. So
lot to
changing
think
it up. So that's all the time we have for this first segment, and we'll be right back after this quick break. Hi everyone, we're back with Girl Talk. My next guest is pursuing a dual major in Human Services and International Affairs, has traveled to over 25 countries, and can never say no to a good cup of coffee. Everyone, please welcome Dana Bellinger.
Hey.
Hi, Dane.
Hey.
Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I like to call you Carmen Sandiego because where in the world are you at all times?
We just never know.
You're always traveling. So, and tell me about your relationship with traveling. How long have you been traveling, and is it a huge part of your life?
Yeah, so traveling is a huge part of my life. I've been very, very fortunate because I've been traveling basically since I was born, because my mom, it's been ingrained in my mom since she was very young. So I grew up having the opportunities to go and travel, and every time we had school break, we would go somewhere really far out, and I would go with my family. So I've just been growing up being able to have that opportunity. So by the time I got to school, it was a very natural transition into like international affairs. And where I am at my school, I go to Northeastern University, and we're required in that major to be abroad. So through Northeastern alone, I've been to like 5 or 6 countries just because I had to go for school. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I love it. I love traveling. I love being around new people, experiencing new things, and really, I've got the doors that Northeastern has opened to like really experiential and like being in the field with people has been remarkable, and just it's something that I always have. So
speaking of the field, I know you recently came back from a field study in Cuba in the Dominican Republic. So just tell me a little bit about what it was like to be there. I mean, what did you see? What was your your goal for the trip? What did you learn?
I actually just got back on Monday, so I'm 2 days, fresh off the plane.
Fresh off the plane.
I was there for a month, and I spent 3 weeks overall in Dominican Republic and 1 week in Cuba. We went for a microfinance field research project. So basically, we were spending time, particularly in the batés in Dominican Republic, which are the sugar plantations that Haitian migrant workers come in. There's a whole very tragic history behind the batés, very intense racism that goes on between the Dominicans and the Haitians. A lot of the Haitians are undocumented workers who are on these plantations, so they don't have access to anything. They're in a very isolated areas. They really have nothing, and we were really dealing with people who are the poorest of the poor, living in absolute poverty. Our project was to basically, we were working with an organization called Esperanza International, and they are they're the only organization in the Dominican Republic that provides loans, microloans to undocumented Haitian workers. So basically our project as a group of 30 Northeastern students was to help that organization identify if the loans they were giving their clients are actually causing over-indebtedness in their clients, meaning a cycle of debt that they could never pay off their loans. Therefore, the loans would never be fulfilling what they should be, which is to start micro businesses, to give profit to the people taking the loans, and income generation in the communities. So we were doing a lot of work. It was really intense.
Yeah, that sounds very
working with those
analytical,
people.
intense.
Yeah, it was, and it just like you're coming face to face with some of the most intense poverty you've ever seen, and it was intense, a remarkable but very intense experience. And then we went to Cuba, which in itself is just mind-blowing, because you don't know many people who get to go to Cuba. We got to go to Cuba for, we went on a tourist trip. You can only get there through being a tourist.
Okay.
But because we were students, we were allowed by the American government to go. And we were basically going and spending a lot of touristy time there, because that's all you can do in Cuba. If you're an American, you have to come for tourist reasons.
Right, you can't go for service trips or anything
exactly,
like
you can't go for other reasons. So we were very touristy, but as a group of analytical students from university, we were studying the feasibility of microfinance in the area, and basically based with the socialism ideals of the country, the way the politics work, the government, the culture, would microfinance work in Cuba? that was our ideal. Like then we get back, and I had to write a paper about that. So, but being in Cuba is just unreal. It's like life stops there, kind of, and it's everything they say about the 1950s cars. You're kind of feeling like you're just walking across this movie set, this eerie movie set.
Like you stepped in a time machine almost.
Yeah, but at the same time, so I saw a different Cuba than I think I was expecting to see. One student that I was with actually said it the best. She said, "We are victims of the American propaganda about Cuba just as much as they are about us."
Wow.
And Cuba is going through a lot of changes right now in the past 2 years. There's been a lot of changes opening up the private sector to really make it a global player. And you really saw the culture just opening up, the people, a lot of hope, I think, for Cuba, more than we're made to think as this isolated country. But it was really incredible to be there. So
That's awesome. That's so interesting. And I commend students and you for going out there. I mean, my parents are from Colombia, and I've invited people to go to Colombia with me, and no one wants to go because they're afraid.
I will go with you.
Yeah, but you're one of the only people.
I will
and
totally go.
There are those perceptions we have of countries like that. And of course, Cuba, there's such a dangerous and fearful perception.
You don't really know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
We were kind of like, oh, this could be a little weird, but it
On
was
that
great.
topic, what do you think is the biggest insight you learned that traveling has taught you? And whether it be going to Cuba or the DR or any country, what has traveling taught you as an American citizen, that you have the right and privilege to travel? What has it given you?
I think just empathy. I think I've been able to grow up a very empathetic person because I've been in such close contact with people who are so different from me, who I had to try to bridge gaps with and communicate with in ways that I didn't know how to. So it's kind of like this limbo where you're learning to like get along with people and feel what they're feeling in their country where you don't know anything, and you have to learn and be open. You just have to be open. You have to be down for whatever, and you have to be willing to like meet people halfway and really get out of your comfort zone and enjoy things with the people of the country. And I think that's taught me how to be very empathetic, and I am so grateful for that because I think it's a very strong quality. And I think to be able to travel and get the most out of travel, you really have to have that.
Yeah.
So I think,
Almost immerse yourself fully and just go with it. On that note, has there been a culture or a country that's been your favorite? Anything that's stuck with you?
Yeah, actually, going on with a couple of these questions you've asked me, my favorite travel experience was I went to Uganda with my mom when I was in high school. And the reason that was one of my favorite trips was because it was the first trip where I really realized how important traveling was to me, and where I wasn't taking it for granted anymore. It wasn't just like going somewhere with my family. It was like when I really realized how important it was and how much I loved it and how lucky I was and how I really wanted to do it my whole life and how I loved experiencing everything. So that was the trip where everything kind of like went full circle for me.
And you can make a difference and see the world. And so my last question, what's next on the agenda? Which country is next?
Yeah, so actually I am leaving, as you know, in like 2 weeks for South Africa.
Wow.
I'm going to be spending 2 months in Cape Town working at a company called Heart Capital. It's a social enterprise accelerator and impact investing boutique. So I'm interning there for a couple months. I'm just so excited to be in Cape Town. I've heard amazing things, but I've also heard that I'm going to experience a lot. It's a very stark contrast between wealth and poverty, some extreme poverty and racism. Just there's so much. It's really just going to be a great time, and I'm very excited to just throw myself into there and work at this organization that I'm so excited about. But really, really get to know Cape Town. I'm very excited.
I can't wait to hear your stories, and I want to hear all of them when we come back.
I have to come back on the show.
And tell us everything that goes on. Well, Dana, thanks so much for speaking with us. I love hearing about world traveling. I love your stories. It just reminds us to get out of our own heads, to go somewhere, to make a change, to do something. And I think you're a really great example of someone who's always done that their entire lives. So that's all the time we have for today. And I'd like to thank you for watching Girl Talk, and I hope to see you soon.